Welcome, friends, to the Play Guitar Podcast. I am Lee, and I'm here to help you become the guitar player that you always wanted to be. Today is the day we're going to unlock the true power of blues soul. You've played over a 12 bars blues progression all the time. You've done it a million times. But do you really understand how to solo over it? How to do it effectively? How to sound like those solos that you really love hearing? Do you ever feel that way? Hey, when I'm playing, it's not really cutting it. If you've ever felt aimless or disconnected, well, that's because great solos don't just happen. They follow a little bit of a system. And today I'm going to break that system down into some secrets. I thought this would be a really cool way of presenting this. And we've talked about chord tone targeting. We talked about phrasing. We talked about all these essentials. But it doesn't seem like anyone's actually doing anything about it. They're not actually using this stuff. So I thought, what's a good way of doing it? Let's get the 3 types of secrets that we can work on. And it's something that you could probably structure in your practice. Now, if you're looking for the lesson, and it's a good lesson this week, let me make sure I get the title completely correct. The 5 ways to target chord tones for killer blues solos. I just finished that just a few minutes ago. It's an awesome lesson. Basically, I had 5 different licks, and I mapped them out across a 12-bar blues, so you can play one in a row. It's like a really cool. So you're learning a solo, but each one targeted chord tones in a different way. So if you learn it, put it into your practice, you're going to see how you can structure things a little bit better too. But today we're going to get into how to play over blues. What are the ways to think? So the 3 key elements that I've found that separate average solos from ones that communicate, right? That turn heads, people listen to, they pay attention to. The secrets, I think, that all blues players should pay attention to. And I do some things in my coaching where I take away some distractions and take away some things that people worry about a lot, and only let you focus on a certain amount of notes, a certain thing I do in coaching for this. And what it does is it gives you the mind of, well, what would I think if I knew the fretboard really well? What would I think if I didn't have to worry about remembering things? If I just really knew it? What would I think if I knew the chords and the notes in the chords already? If that was second nature, what would I do then? I'd have nothing to worry about anymore, right? Well, the things we're going to talk about today are those things. These are the things that a professional player worries about. Communicating. Yeah, they can play anything they want, but playing it in the right way, but playing it in a way that someone who knows nothing about music feels it and enjoys it and gets what the guitar player is trying to put across. That's difficult to do. So these are the secrets. The number 1 secret, I'll go through each of these later, the structure secret. This is the key to never getting lost in a solo, knowing where you are. Do you ever play solo, have no idea what chord's coming up, where you are in the song or anything? Happens all the time. But once you understand how the chords change in a 12-bar blues, when the next chord is coming up, your solos are going to start to follow that. And they're going to start to make sense. And then you can either target chords to get an inside sound or add some tension on purpose and maybe have it pay off when a new chord comes in, right? Hey, we'll get to that. The other secret, the second one, is the phrasing secret. This is what makes your solos flow. Learn how to land on the right note at the right time and how to not play too many of those notes, to make your solos breathe a little bit. It instantly makes your playing more intentional and instantly makes it polished as well too. And the last secret is the expressive secret. This is where you go from just playing notes to really speaking through your guitar. It's all about bends, vibrato, dynamics, these things that mimic what? The voice, right? It adds feeling, makes your solos unforgettable, and it makes it so that people have to pay attention to them. Why? Because we are wired. It's not easy to say. We are wired to respond to the human voice. So by the end of the episode, we're going to go through all these things. You'll know how to apply them to your playing, maybe even to start working on them intentionally in your practice, and you're going to get some solos that actually sound good. Don't sound like you're aimless. Don't sound like they're scales. Sound good to you? Well, let's get started, okay? We're going to go to secret number 1, the structure secret. We're going to unlock this 12-bar blues formula. Well, what is it? We've got a 1 chord that goes to a 4 chord, and in there somewhere, there's a little bit of a 5 chord. Well, okay, I got that, but when do they happen, right? So if we take the first line, usually in a regular blues, you'll have the 1 chord. I did the key of A this week, so we'll talk about. So usually you'll have an A for 4 measures. It's a very even sound, and I found at the end of 4 measures, I'm ready for something new. That's about all I can take. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. So here, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3. Okay, I'm getting tired of this. 4. So something's got to happen right now. If you've ever seen a 12-bar blues mapped out, you'll have 4 measures on the top, 4 measures in the middle, and 4 measures at the bottom. Those were just the 4 measures at the top, the A7, the 1 chord. Now, on the next line, the line in the middle, we're going to have 2 measures of a D7 chord, the 4 chord. This is in A, 1, 2, 3, 4. D is the 4th note, so this is a chord built off of that, the 4 chord. And that's going to have 2 measures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what's got to happen? We're going to go back to the 1 chord for 2 measures, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we've been through the first 4 measures, which was all the 1 chord, the second line, which has 2 measures of the 4 chord, and then back to the 1 chord for 2 measures. So it's been pretty open and sparse, and you can get a lot of stuff done. Now we're at the 3rd line. This is measure 9, 10, 11, and 12. And we're going to be moving here. So now we got to the 5 chord, right? This is our E7 chord. This only happens for 1 measure. And if you want to take advantage of that chord, you have to think quick because it's gone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now back to the D7. 1, that's the 4 chord. 2, 3, 4. And then back to the 1 chord. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the most basic blues that you can get. And that last measure of A7, the last 2 measures of A7, this is something called the turnaround. This is you'll be hearing, or those little lines that tell you that it's over. So people do things with this 12-bar blues. Sometimes in the beginning, those 4 measures of A7, some people sound like that's a little too plain. They need to add something in there to spice it up, especially if it's a slow blues. So they do something called a quick 4. That means in measure 2, they'll go to the 4 chord, the D7 for just 1 measure, but then come back to the A7 for 2 measures. So instead of just 4 A7s, you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? In the middle line of the blues, where you go to the 4 chord for 2 and 1, there's some things that happen. You might see there's the D chord going to a D diminished sound back to the 1, but we're not going for that today. That's getting into like jazz blues type stuff. But what I'm looking at is the last section. We have our E7 chord for 1, our D7 chord for 1, and then our A7 chord for 2. But at the very end, you'll hear this a lot of time. A little E7 at the end there. Well, why is that? Because if you think about it, at the end of a blues, you have 2 measures of A7, and it's going back to the top, which has 4 measures of A7. So that's 6 measures. It's probably pretty easy to not know when it ends and when it starts. 2 from the end and 4 from the beginning. So if you add that little E7 right at the end, sometimes it's on the last 2 beats of the whole thing. Sometimes it's the whole last measure of the whole thing. But it signals you, hey, we're about to get started again. Knowing this structure, why is it important that I went through each one of the chords all of the time? Because if you can hear it, if you know when the chords are about to change. And I'm sure a lot of you are. A lot of you have been playing over blues. You think, oh, something's about to happen. I can feel it. And it goes to the 4 chord, right? Being able to know when each of these chord changes happen. And it's not difficult to do because the 12-bar blues, it's a standardized format. You're going to hear it very similar across the board here. So when you hear those things change that way, you can take advantage of it in certain ways, which we're going to get to. Which brings us to secret number 2, the phrasing secret. Okay, so we know these chords. We know when they're happening. Now, how do we build a solo that flows? I think of chords as buildings on a city block, right? Say you're driving down a road in Philadelphia. I lived in Philadelphia for a while. So you're driving down right downtown and you're in front of this building for a while. And then now you're in front of this building. Now you're in front of this building, right? You're going across it. And these buildings are kind of like chords. They happen for a certain amount of time and then you're on to the next one. And they're blocks, right? And then I think of the solos, the lines, as kind of like maybe like a bird flying in front of the windows. You know, you go up to this window or down to this window. You target certain levels of these chords and then it takes you to another one. So it kind of ebbs and flows. It goes higher, it goes lower, right? It's not blocks. It's more kind of the line. It's linear. And to get that line to sound in a way that's pleasing, that's polished, but also something that we can digest, something that's not a million notes. You might start to feel claustrophobic. No. Giving a little bit of breathing room, turning these into sentences here. One of the things we do when we make sentences is we use punctuation, right? So knowing those chords as you go across, knowing those chords and knowing what the notes are in those chords, if you could ever get yourself to get past that and and decide now it's the day I'm going to learn the notes in these chords. If you ever get to do that, then you have something to end your phrases with. A strong note that's going to sound great. It's like an exclamation point or a period at the end of a sentence, right? And also rhythmic placement. Playing some notes that fit nicely over a chord in a rhythmic way. Understanding, okay, I'm going to play, maybe I'll anticipate this chord. Maybe I'll play one beat ahead of it and feature a strong note, and then it comes in there. There's a lot of different things that we can do, but phrases are simple ideas with the guitar. So let's see here. If I'm playing over this A7 chord, so if I was going to create a phrase here, I'm not going to play. It's very linear. The rhythms are all exactly the same. It doesn't sound like what someone would speak, right? It was a very long run-on sentence. If I did that same thing that I just played, but did it in phrases, here's what it would sound like. That wasn't great, but it's better. I gave myself little breaks, the punctuation. I was hitting the root note, the A. I hit the one up here, hit the one up here, hit the one down here. I used different A's for punctuation to end a short series of notes that are put together in a way that I think would be pleasing. And then that break too, the break in between the phrase here, there. Remember I said something about claustrophobic, sounding claustrophobic, or sounding like you're holding your breath. If you keep playing note, you'll notice that people's attention goes away. They can't consume that. They need to have these short ideas. And the blues is great for that. Why? Because we know how many measures that we have to work with. So if I have 4 measures in the beginning over an A7, I might be able to play 4 phrases, 4 short phrases that were, I might be able to play 2 longer phrases over that. I know when the D7 chord comes in, I might play another lick there, a short phrase. And this one I might end with a note from the D7 chord. See where I'm going with this, right? We can add very consonant sounds and very consumable licks thinking about phrasing. Also, phrasing isn't always just about playing the strong note of the chord. We work on that because that's the thing people don't know how to do. But adding tension into a phrase is great too. Just by using the blues scale, that flat 5 that's in that scale, that's a note that's outside the whole structure of this. So notice I didn't end on that note. If I ended on that note, that doesn't sound satisfying. That's adding tension where a strong note you would feel that it would be. No, I ended on the root. So that tension became tension and release inside of a small phrase. Thinking about these things is very, very important. It's not just going to happen. You think it's over time, I'll just start playing with good phrasing. You need to think about it. You need to be intentional about these things. Now in phrasing, we get to the targeting. So we've been playing that root note. We just talked about it a little bit with the root note. But we don't have to always use that root note. We could use maybe the third of the chord. It gives a sweeter sound, or the fifth. Each one of those notes is a strong note. It matches the chord. It's in the chord. Is it as strong as the root? I'd say not. I'd say the root is the strongest. But what if I wanted to have a sweet sound? I might go to the major third. A strong sound, I go to the fifth. Getting those different chord notes together is really important. And if you want to move forward in the blues, really understanding what the notes are in the chords, take a little bit of time. I mean, it's as simple as you already know the chord shapes. Figure out what each note is. Write them down. Take a bar chord. You'll be glad you did, right? So thirds give emotional color. Sevenths are always cool too. That's a very funky sound when you resolve to the seventh of a chord there too. Another part of phrasing that you might use in blues, that's something you might not normally think about, is call and response. Having a conversation there. You can have a call and response with the singer by playing fills in between there. You could have a call and response on your own. You might play something low and then play the same thing on a higher register. Could sound like two different people are talking. So what I was doing there was on my lower register, I was playing a repetitive phrase. And then on the upper register, I was pretending like there was another guitar player playing fills, and I was playing around it, not playing exactly what they play, but adding to the idea. So really understanding how to break up your solos in a different way that you could sound like you're doing fills along with someone else, that could help you a whole lot. The last secret, expression. Adding these advanced techniques to make your solos stand out. Once you get the notes down and the scale patterns down, the basic rhythms down, how do you dress these things up to really sound polished, to sound great? Well, you can add bends, slides, dynamics, other things to bring out emotion in the solos, individuality in those things. When you get your fretboard under your fingers, your mind is free to think of a lot of different things. First one's syncopation, rhythmic variations, not playing the same rhythm all the time. Raise your hand if you do that. If you find yourself playing, everything sounds the same. Well, I can play three notes, and if I play the same, I can reverse them. It's going to sound almost the same because I'm using the same rhythm. What if I took these three notes? Very different sound. Hanging on one of them longer than the other ones. There's all sorts of different things. Syncopation is playing on the offbeat. So getting different sounds from your rhythms can take those same old tired licks that you've been playing, make them sound really, really interesting. Thinking about dynamics a little bit. Dynamics is not just how loud you turn your amp up. Being able to play. I have this amp, let's say it's this, that's right in the middle. I'm not hitting it hard and I'm not hitting it so soft. But what if I play this little 3-note lick that we've been doing? Adds a ton of interest, being able to start low, build high. It sounds like you meant to do those things, even if you're just fooling around. It says something different. You can use the same 3 notes and play them quietly, and then also play the same exact 3 notes, same rhythm, but in a loud way, and it communicates something different. It gives a different feeling, and that's what we're dealing with. We're trying to get feelings across in ways that we don't have words. It's a very difficult thing to do. Some people can do that with their expressions. You can just see their face and know what they're thinking. We're having to do that through notes and music. And then also integrating scales and modes, adding different tones into your regular old minor pentatonic or natural minor scales. Combining, getting control of each of the intervals. Knowing what happens when you change a second degree of the scale to a flat 2. How does that sound? Knowing when you get the minor third or the major third, what those do. Knowing about the sharp 4 or a regular 4, what that sounds like. Knowing about the 6th and the major 6th and the minor 6th, and then the flat 7 and the major 7. Changing when you go through scales, really, you could start with a major or a natural minor scale and just start changing each of the degrees of the scales, and you're going to find, hey, that was already in this harmonic minor scale, or that's already in the Dorian mode. All they usually are basically major and minor scales with some of the notes changed in them, though. So you can experiment with those things too. Well, I hope you had a good time today. I really see these problems all the time, and these things sound simple, but they're not. Mostly because people don't really try to do them. If you put them into your daily practice routine, you're intentional about doing these things, you're going to sound better. I swear. You will. I've seen it happen this week. Okay. Don't forget to sign up for my free email course, Blues Solo Breakthrough, 6 Steps to Confident Killer Solos. In fact, I was finishing it up. I've got it all finished. It's going to be going live today. Everyone who signed up before, you'll be getting it this week. It's packed with tips and strategies to help you play with confidence and make every note count. And then I'm going to see you soon. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. Hit the button below to subscribe to the show. And if you got something from this podcast, if I helped you, all I ask is you leave a favorable Apple Podcast review. This really helps us get to more people in more places and help them sound better. And if more help and structure and results in your guitar playing sound good to you, hey, we've got a lot of fun stuff going on over at the Academy. Every Wednesday, we get this group is growing and growing and growing. Tons of good questions. We keep up with everybody. I do some teaching in there. So it's kind of like a little bit of a group class for just what you pay for the Academy, with all the other things that are in the Academy too. The backing tracks and the guitar profiles, the PDFs for all the YouTube lesson videos. And then the whole roadmap. There's just so much stuff in there. I hope you go and check it out and see you over there. Join the world's most exciting, carefully playing guitar system, and we will build your online home base for guitar. Thanks again. It's great to hang out with you today, and I'll see you soon.